We jump right in. It's 4:07 on the East Coast. Let's make the most out
Do
of
it.
this. I really, again, appreciate everyone being here. And last thing I'm seeing with the chat, just a couple of, a lot of Tern 101. We'll check out the CRM. We'll look at folders, brand new in Tern, super exciting, and how to get all this going. Okay. So with that in mind, I'm going to close out my poll. I answered that for you, Grace. And now I'm just going to go through a presentation. So that's not the whole part of today. Today is not all presentation. We just got to get through the brief intro first for those new people joining us or people returning to Tern, going back and checking out, like, how do I make my work better with the best product on the market? So we're Tern. Our whole goal here today in this demo with our product and with everything we do is to help you streamline your operations, boost efficiency, leading to growth. We've heard so many stories of advisors who have grown all the way because their operations and their efficiency have really improved through Tern. So happy to continue doing that and educate this group today on how you can do it for yourselves. So with that in mind, a little bit of background of Tern. Tern was born right around the pandemic time, where we were seeing that there was there was this terrible, of course, travel industry affecting event where at the end of the day, there were the cancellations and there's going into all of these different systems and there's people stranded and traveling all over the world. And it was quite a big issue. Realized at that time that, there's a lot of advisors out there who are working through outdated technology, different places, with Tern advisors. We're seeing a surge in new advisors joining the industry. We see a surge in travelers using travel advisors and just great success overall with people really being able to use a technology that's redefining the client experience. So half of Tern, if you're thinking about it just in big picture, half of Tern is going to be your productivity. It's going to be you creating these proposals, delivering stuff to your client. And then the other half is truly going to be the client experience. Where can we give them the most comfortable, most exciting, beautiful, picture-heavy, descriptive itineraries and tools that they're able to use as well as a traveler? So that's where we're really succeeding, and happy to look at how we're doing that more specifically today. So historically, the approach to technology in the travel industry has kind of been layered, different layers of the stack, different tools. You had your itineraries in one tool, you have your CRM in another tool, invoicing maybe coming from a third, or maybe you don't have the best process for that in the first place. That's where we're coming in. So what we'll see in this actual demo in this webinar today is we'll see the full flow of Tern, going from advisor creating the actual proposal to the client experience of approving it, authorizing their credit card, and how you're able to work through all of that. It's a super exciting thing that we've really been able to eliminate the invisible work. So back on that previous slide, all of those arrows connecting those kind of convoluted, disconnected solutions, we've put that all in what we consider an alignment to say you can do this all in Tern through a super efficient process. So with that in mind, high level, what we're going to look at today, we're going to look at building a proposal. So how do we end up with this beautiful layered proposal, having flights, transportation, a property, all where the traveler is able to see all of this wonderful work you've done. This is going to be convincing for them to say, I'm working with you, I'm going on this trip. How are you going to do that? And then what is their flow of the experience of working with this itinerary you've created? One of the things we'll look at when it comes to building the itinerary is how we can build in options. So gone are the days of having to go back and forth with the client and adjust their invoice. We can actually automatically adjust the authorization page based on those options that your clients are choosing. So I'm going to show you how to build out some of those and what some of those options are. And as well, talk about some of our easy import features. So you may have built out an extensive library before of hotels and cruises. And of course, you can build out your own library in Tern. But if you're starting from scratch, or if you want to always have the up-to-date images, the up-to-date descriptions in Tern, we already have properties and cruises, for example, ways to help you build those quicker. Again, when we go to the client side of things, we're going to look at the authorization. We can also talk about it from the advisor point of view. I saw that in the chat for sure. Our authorization process is built with you in mind, protecting from chargebacks, so defending against what can be called friendly fraud, but is in also another word for essentially a chargeback, what that looks like to the client and what that's looking like for you when it comes to setting up a trip. And then finally, just a little bit of a talk about the client mobile experience. So not everyone always realizes that we have a mobile app for travelers. It's called Tern Travel. It's available on Apple and Android. And it's a wonderful way for your clients to be able to use their itinerary while they're in destination, as well as view the proposals that you're sending them prior to them signing up to go on this trip. So really, really cool thing that we can be able to hit on. With that in mind, quick plug. We did it last week. We got to do it again. Grace, quick mention of the users conference. And I'm going to show you, it's like a tie back to last week. I'll show you the landing page for this. So this is using our groups functionality. So if I switch over here to my other screen share,
While you do that, let me give some context as to what this is real quick. So just so you guys know, we're doing a conference specifically for Tern users. Whether you use us currently you want to, or you're a super user, we are going on a cruise to Bermuda on a Virgin Voyages cruise. Yay, Bermuda, amazing. That part's great, don't get me wrong. But the entire time you're on the cruise, you're also gonna have the option to join a plethora of sessions and workshops for Tern users specifically. So we're putting together a very tactile conference. I literally just got off the planning call for this a second ago, where we had 2 hours of walking through the content for this. So first of all, if any of you are going, please put it in the chat. We'd love to know who's attending so we can show that, some of you, if you're going, we can share and make sure you guys know that. But also, if you're someone that's like, I need workflows and automations set up, we literally have a whole section, well, multiple sections of the conference are going to be workshops with our team, setting up workflows for you, giving you set workflow and automation tools to set up. We're going to be having, how do you integrate this within AI, but like tactily, like actually sitting down and doing it together rather than, it's not going to be like all presentation style. Sure, there's going to be some of that, but it's also going to be very, very driven on like, let's get you actually set up. So by the time you leave here, your entire business is super automated, super set up and easy for you to use, whether it's Tern, but also maybe some AI tools, also some other like social media and marketing tools. We're going to have some experts joining us talking to us about that. So I'm going to send the link in the chat real quick, but also if you want to like just put in the chat that you're interested, I can send you an email as well, letting you know more of the details. Evan, feel free to jump in and now share more about
that. No, that was great. And, just tying it back to last week, we showed this off as like our best group landing page. Coincidentally, it's for the conference. This week, we're going to do kind of the same thing and talk about this as our best itinerary. So just going to briefly scroll through to kind of set the stage of, here's a wonderful cruise itinerary talking about the cruise line, the ship, all of the destinations that this trip is going, as well as showing the cabin options and all of the destinations. So just wanted to briefly scroll through it. This is basically what we're going to try to build today. We're going to build, though, an FIT. I'm actually feeling really motivated to build a trip to Spain. I may be going, so might be kind of my trip already, but we're going to build that together, show off some of those things like I was talking about in the presentation with the hotels and the property search and so on. So with that in mind, we'll digress from the users conference. I'm going to sign in to Tern. Look at that. We're going all the way from the very beginning. This is truly Tern 101 today. So with this in mind, we're in Tern.
This is the landing page when you log in, right?
What was that, Grace?
When you log into your Tern account, this is what you see. Just want to make sure you all know that.
Yes, we're logging in and I'm officially in Tern right from the start. So this is my page. This is where I have all of my upcoming trips. If you can't tell, I put on my travel advisor hat right now, pretending to be an advisor so I can really show this workflow from end to end. So one of the things in Tern, when it comes to creating a new trip, you can use a form. So if you aren't currently utilizing forms, you can go ahead and check out under library, the forms section, and create a trip request form. That's a good kind of starting point if you don't have one already and you're a Tern user and looking to collect information for your travelers. Aside from this, we can create a new trip manually. I want to show you this feature because we're actually able to say, Steve goes to Spain We're able to give this trip a name. We're able to add dates to this trip. So I'm going to say it's in August 4th until the 10th and create this trip. From here, what's really exciting is we can actually add travelers directly from our CRM. So if you already have a Steve in here, Steve Stevenson, coincidentally, you can add them to the trip. This is also where you can add additional travelers. So Steve's family, or if it's partners traveling together or two friends, you can go ahead and add them all from here. If you don't have this information, that's another opportunity to use forms. So that leaves me, Grace, with a note that forms will be one of our good follow-ups for today to just send out afterwards. So when we open up this trip, we're able to see our upcoming activity and our past activity. You see here that I have 2 new tasks. So on the topic of workflow, I have a workflow theoretically on this trip that is creating 2 new tasks for me as soon as it's created. Typically, those tasks might be call client, do a discovery call, get to know what type of trip they're wanting to plan. And then maybe your other task is titled plan trip. It could be as simple as that. So with that in mind, that's a brief idea of one of the ways to use workflow right off the bat. So by creating a new trip, I'm giving myself new tasks. These can be titled whatever you'd like, and you're able to mark them complete right from here. These tasks are ones that I've previously created in the workflow. So they're showing up on every single new trip that I create. So
do you want to explain real quick? So you said that these are ones you previously created. Can you explain real quick just where you'd add that?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the library over here under tasks, automations, and workflows, this is where you're able to create the workflows. So by creating a new one, you can call this new trip workflow. Do that right here and select that it's a trip workflow. And then from here is where you can add your tasks and automation. So I have one this is where you can create for every new trip. I want to create myself a task to call that client, for example. And Chloe, thanks for the shout out in the chat here. Chloe is doing a task and workflow webinar. This is going to be amazing. Chloe is the expert of webinars. So check out the chat if you wanted to see more as far as how to build these out and all of the options you have. So that was a brief jump into that again, where those workflows are coming from. But now that we're on this trip, I'm going to keep my advisor hat on and I'm going to start planning. So what I like to do first is under the itinerary, I like to click on this. This is where we're able to add an image for our trip, for our cover photo. So you have multiple different ways of accessing images. My favorite is going into the image library. It's royalty free, so you never have to worry about using these. And you go ahead and pick your favorite image. From here, you can add an overview. This is going to be a trip to Spain. We are just going to keep it super simple in the interest of speed today, and we're going to name this option Spain. Now, one of the cool things that I'm showing here is by editing this itinerary, you might see that there's this plus button. I'm going to go back to it. There was this plus button up here. One of the options you can do in Tern is present multiple itineraries at the same time. So I wanted to remind people, if you're talking to a client and they say, I have a $10,000 budget, I want to go, don't know where I want to go. Actually, you can say, great, I'll make you 3 ideas here. You can present them Spain, you can present them Italy, and you can present them somewhere in South America even as 3 separate itineraries that they'd be able to choose from without really adding too much to your workflow. So really exciting thing there. After we've put in our cover photo, you saw where it took me because I hit the back button, but it took me over to the itinerary page. From this itinerary page, this is where we're going to build out the trip. So we might get a little more granular here. I'm sure there might be some questions while we're building, but we're going to go ahead and start with the first, what I consider the most important component. We're going to start with a flight. So everything over here on the right side of the screen is drag and drop in Tern. So you're clicking it, you're dragging it, dropping it, and we're saying on Monday, August 4th, they're going to have a flight. To find the flight, we're working with any of our wholesale partners, we're working with any of our booking solutions, or direct with the airline. And we're finding that flight option for the client. So I found one. It's going to be American Airlines flight 66. I'm going to type that in and it's going to pull this up. So it's going from John F. Kennedy Airport to Barcelona. It's a direct flight. It's going to be fantastic for the client. I'm going to then add the seat. I'm going to say this is going to be seat 32A in economy. And I'm all set with putting in the actual flight at this point. I want to point out right here that we actually have flight notifications. Heard a couple one-off stories. Any of the users in the chat might have noticed this as well, that I've heard we are giving notifications to the client that their flight is canceled before the airline app is. So great feature to know that you're able to get these notifications, your client is, to make sure that their flights are handled. So really cool thing here. As with any activity, we're going to next go into booking and pricing. If you were working on a hotel or something where media is a little more relevant, you could go into media next. But typically for flights, I'm just going straight to the booking and pricing tab. Now, here is where we're going to do the flow of we're creating the pricing for the client, we're tracking the commission for ourselves, and we're setting up the payment schedule. This is going to be the same process for every asset that we're adding today to our trip. So I'm going to go through it nice and slow and make sure that we understand how it's going to reflect. So this activity is priced flat rate. If we had multiple people on this itinerary, we could price it per person, of course. And this flight is actually a great deal. It's $370.59. So we'll go ahead and type that in for the price. So underneath this, it's a flight, and I'm going to require my client pays in full. And I'm going to set up a payment due date. So I'm going to say this flight is due being paid for on July 1st. And then down here, I'm going to type in the supplier that I'm booking with. So this is going to be booked with American Airlines. However, if you're booking with, say, a third party, like a booking software, you can also set them as the supplier for this. So right here, it's pulled in the terms and conditions. And I want to point out that I uploaded these. So the first time you're working with a supplier, you're going to want to make sure that you upload the terms and conditions. Once you do so, they'll pull in every time after that. Now, finally, down here at the bottom is where I'm going to do my last step. So for this trip, for the flight, it's a guaranteed price. I know what I'm going to be charging for this, and there's no options that I'm presenting to the client. So I know my commission's guaranteed to be $40. So I'm going to fill that in now. And then down here at confirmation, I haven't technically booked this yet. This is still kind of part of that proposal itinerary. So I'm not going to put a confirmation number, and I'm not going to click mark as booked. I see in the chat here, Chloe pointed something out. Thank you for the help. You do want to add a supplier cancellation policy. So if I click this and I'm going to say non-refundable, for example, that will help us prevent chargebacks. So thank you for that reminder right there. So with that in mind, I'm going to scroll back up to the top and see that we've gotten this ready for authorization. That's the key. So each of our assets that we're going to be charging money for, we're going to want to make sure that they're ready for authorization. So with that in mind, I'm confident that that is all set and it is in the system. So that's a flight. Once we land, we're going to need to go check into a hotel. So let's add one. So using this lodging block, I can go ahead and drag this in, and I can use our property search to find the hotel. So if I type in W Barcelona, got to spell Barcelona right to find it, and select it, it'll show us it's part of W Hotels. I can automatically have my check-in date, and then I can choose my check-out date at the end of this trip. I'll quickly put in my check-in and check-out times. I hate how sometimes you have to wait until 3 p.m. to get in there, but that's the rule. It's going to pull in a description from our third-party partner that the hotel is updating themselves. So that pulls in. But I do want to point out, this is fully editable. So if you don't like it, you can delete it. You can add in your own. You can add in emojis, more photos if you'd like. But we, of course, also have our media tab. Grace, I see you over there. What's going on?
I know, I had to point this out. So I think you just skipped over something really good to quickly cover though. Like that editor is so much more dynamic than you'd think, everyone. So like, I don't, maybe you could show exactly like you can bold, change the color, like we said, add emojis, but you can also add photos in that actual text box. Doesn't necessarily need to because we have that media tab, like we pointed out, but it's just something worth noting that like this can be edited and adjusted to make sure that it fits your workflow. Again, don't have to, but just wanted to point out this is an update that we've been making, just making sure that this is super useful. Yeah, you can totally add links. I saw that. Yeah, the emojis. So hopefully that's a useful little tool in there.
I see a question here about video links. So you can, of course, link out to a video in this as well. So yeah, Grace, thanks. Good point out there. We've made it look quite pretty now. I think we have every type of font in here. That is quite fun. So with that in mind, let's check out what we've pulled in for media. So we're not going to add the photos there. Instead, we're going to see all of these beautiful photos that have pulled in through our partner, our third-party partner. So you can change the primary photo. I don't think this one does it as much justice as this beautiful pool. So I'm going to switch that to be the primary photo for this activity. Anything down here that's inactive, we can add this up top as well. And we could totally upload our own images if we would like already, or we can add other ways. So Susan, great question. If it's not populating photos that work for you, or just not populating photos at all, maybe it's like a brand new hotel or super boutique, there's a few different ways to add it. So you can add from web link. This is something that will pull all of the photos off of a web page. So typically like the hotel web page, you can have it pull off of. You can copy and paste using this box. So you can click here and paste images into it. And then the third way is you can add images directly from your computer. So if you've ever downloaded them in the past, that is how you can add them directly from your computer. Great question. So we're going to now go over into rooms and we're going to build out 2 room options for the traveler. So this is an exciting time here because this is using options. This is something that saves a ton of time. This is one of my favorite things here. Hey, Grace.
The options, I just had to say it. The options are my favorite thing ever. We were demoing it in Toronto this weekend at TMP Toronto, and it was just super, super cool. Are we going to show them the options? Are we going to do?
We are. We're gonna make some options here.
Good.
Yes. So with these options, we're going to click this beautiful convert to options button, and we are going to create 2 room options here. So I'm going to say this is going to be a king bed suite. We can put the description. So from maybe the W Hotel website or your booking software, you would put the description here. And then this is another area where you could be uploading your own photos. So you can put photos of the specific room. So if I look up, let's just do this together. W Hotel Barcelona, fabulous suite. I believe that's what it's called. And I open this up. That is a crazy looking suite. Let's just copy this photo and put it in there for the traveler. So if we paste that in, we now have that with the description that we would add. Now let's add a second room. We'll add a more budget-friendly room because I'm thinking this fabulous suite might be pretty expensive. We're going to say 2 doubles, keep it simple, and pretend we're putting a full description in here. We're just going to keep it short. So right there, we've created 2 room options. We could create more. We could create 3. We could create 4. I could keep clicking at them. But we're going to, Chloe pointed out there's a person on this photo. I don't know if it's supposed to be your photo when you check in or what, but that is hilarious. Back to the options. You can add 3, you can add 4, you can present all of these different rooms. Now, with this being created, I'm going to show you how we're pricing something with options. So we're back on kind of the last step, which is our booking and pricing page, and we're going to price this. So we can do flat rate, we can do per room, we can do per person. Something that's really exciting is we can even have occupancy rates. So if the rate is different for double occupancy versus single occupancy, you can have it priced that way. Think of those all-inclusives and think about group trips. So if you're here and you do groups, go back and watch that video from last week. We'll make sure to send it to you. But just for today, for Steve Stevenson, we're going to make sure that they're just being priced the flat rate, or the flat rate per room, but without occupancy. So we're going to take that off. So with this in mind, we have our king bed suite. Grace, how much money do you think this would be? Maybe 14,000?
Oh boy, I think that's a bit high, but I love it. Let's make it high.
Okay.
Get that commission.
That one's 14,000. We'll say the other room is 4,000. So we'll really make it a tough choice here between the king bed and the suite. So we've put in our prices for our 2 options. We're also going to require this in full, but reminder, you could require deposit and final balance, installment guarantee, and you could allow partial payments. so people can
Before you
come in.
skip past that real quick, because I
Yes.
know you're going to glean right past it, but I want to point it out again. If you guys are doing a lot of groups, if you're doing, anything like that, that payment schedule, some of those that is new, you can pay, just to reiterate it, you can do a deposit and a final balance, and you could set that up. Partial payments, you could set the installments, and that can change depending upon like if you're doing groups. That's super useful. So just keep an eye out there that's just like a fantastic feature, especially if you're doing groups.
Thanks, Grace.
Oh, and we got a question here.
Yes. So
Explain the
set
difference.
installments, Jessica, the difference would be, I'll just click on this for you. You can add the installments and those would have due dates with a specific amount. So the partial payment would be allowing for partial payment would have no specific due dates for any amount of money. So maybe in that case, someone's just doing $100 a week going in and authorizing. Chloe, thanks for the answer in there as well. And then does the payment schedule have to be same for the group? When you're setting up a group, it will be the same payment schedule initially, but you can change that for an individual traveler in that group. That there's some more info on that in that group's video.
Yeah, you can set it up for as like the group trip, like the head trip details. You could set it up, but then when you get into sub trips and people start like actually reserving or booking and things like that, you can like actually adjust that if you need.
Perfect. So for our payment details, we're going to keep the same final payment due date. It's pretty soon. It's July 1st. We're going to say the supplier we're booking through is W Hotels. So going to click that here. And then this is where if I didn't have them, I would add the terms and conditions, right? So this is a good example here and adding the cancellation policy. For commission, here's a new example today. I'm not going to put it in yet because I'm not sure how much commission I'm going to get. If I'm getting 10% commission, it's going to be a different amount if they choose the King Suite or if they choose the 2 doubles. So let's leave this blank. Let's leave confirmation blank. And what have we seen here? Ready for authorization after room selections. That's a thumbs up from me because the client will be choosing the room for authorization.
I want to ask you, Evan, real quick, because someone was asking in the Q&A as well, that if they have a client who has 3 different rooms, so one client, 3 different rooms, are they able to price out each room? Well, I'm able to price out each room, but it's not giving me an option to list the deposit for each room. Am I missing something?
Gotcha. So as far as, listing the deposit for each room, that we can cover that in a separate short video that we'll send back to you.
Cool.
Got it. Thanks for pointing that out. So okay, so we have our flight, we have our hotel. Now these days look a little empty. If you're asking me, we need some stuff to do. So I'm going to show off one of the things from our activity library, which is if you've already booked trips to a certain location, you can save these activities. So you can save the hotels, you can save the tours that you're sending people on and quickly add them to the trip through the activity library. So let's do that. We'll drag an activity here, and I'm going to choose this Sagrada Familia guided tour. We can see these photos. We can see the description of this, and I'm going to go ahead and add that to the trip. So by adding that to the trip, it's pulled in. Let's check out what we've got here. We have the supplier. We have the location that the tour is meeting. I'm going to add the start date just to make sure it's correct for this trip. I'm going to add the starting time. This is going to be 10 o'clock until 2 o'clock p.m. It's a 4-hour tour. Here's the full description. And then our media is already loaded in here. And our pricing, if we need to adjust it, we can. So if the price has gone up or gone down, but I've just checked, it's the same price. And this is already ready for authorization. Super exciting how quickly you can reuse templates essentially that you have. You can save entire itineraries as a template, or you can save individual items such as hotels, such as activities. So I want to point out here, the hotel that we did was not saved from a template. That's from the hotel library where we have hundreds of thousands of properties with the media and the description. The flight is coming from our flight tracker where we have hundreds of thousands of flights. If you were doing a cruise, the cruise comes from our cruise library where we have tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of cruises. I'm not sure how many cruise ships there are in the world.
Have all
of
the
many.
cruises
We have all of them though. So
we also just a fun addition there too. And I learned this when I was doing this demo this past weekend, actually, was when you're adding in the cruises, like we have also not just the cruises themselves, but also the different sailings, and then also all of the individual rooms and room layouts and things like that. So we get super granular with the cruise library content that we have already in there for you.
Love it, Grace. Thank you. So we'll go on. I see a couple questions, but I'm going to add one more thing kind of while I'm answering them. We're going to see how well I can do at multitasking. I'm actually going to create an activity from scratch here, and it will give me a point to pause to be able to answer some of these questions. So if I'm creating activity and I go over to a supplier, I'm going to say Project Expedition in this case, and I find a tour. This could be from like a TripAdvisor, a Viator, so on. We need something else. Let's see here. We got this food tasting tour. If I copy this link, we can have AI create an activity for us. This is something amazing. So we're agnostic in the suppliers you can work with AI. All you do is copy and paste the link in, and it's going to create an activity for us. So while that's loading, I'm going to read Jessica's question here, or Jessica had a statement, Christine's question. I'm just going to read that. Yeah, so if you're using a saved activity, you can save it and not have it save like the confirmation, the pricing, and all of that. So you're just going to kind of import the framework, and then you just want to double check the pricing, the date, and the time and the location. So you just want to make sure that those are correct. Chloe makes a good point. Capital letters, please make sure to put in the supplier terms and conditions and cancellation policy. Yes, Chloe, I support that. So I'll make sure to add it to this one just to double check. And then, yeah, just a lot of good comments and appreciation. So, gotcha. Question about the Project Expedition link. So it doesn't automatically link back like the Project Expedition booking link would. So it's not technically a booking. We're just pulling in that tour. And then you're making that booking yourself on behalf of the client. So let's see what this is pulled in. So this is pulled in the name of the tour, the pricing, the description. I'm going to click this add button, and we're most of the way done. So I'm just going to type in the supplier, Project Expedition. I can see the description. The time is correct. All of this is pulled in with the magic of AI. Under media, I can actually add the images from that web link. So I'll let that load in the background. And then for booking and pricing, let's check this. We have $93.77. That's correct. The supplier is going to be Project Expedition. And Chloe, to make sure that we're on the same page, let me add the terms and conditions. So I'm just going to pretend that this is the terms and conditions, but they're actually on a different link. But this will be kind of our like practice pretend. And this is non-refundable. That's what we're going to say. Okay. Then for commission, we'll say we get $20 for booking this because it's a set price. We know it. And that's the expected date. So all of this here, we are going to scroll up, ready for authorization. We're all set. Now, I want to show something really exciting here. We have these two tours. They're at the same time. They overlap. What are we going to do about that? We are going to allow the client to make the choice of which tour they want to go on. So using the trip components, I'm going to drag in the options block, and I'm going to put that right here. I'm going to call this tour choices. I think that's a good name for it, tour choices. And then I'm going to drag these into the box. So this has created an option now for the clients to choose which tour they want to do. Super fabulous feature. Can't wait to show you what that looks like for the client experience. So last couple things we're going to do here. Again, keeping it just kind of simple for this trip. Of course, you could have multiple days of activities. You could have multiple sections of options. Remember, you can do options for the hotel, like which property you want them to stay at, which activities they want to do, something like that. I want to do some of our AI features. So let's do a destination guide. This is one of our relatively brand new things. If I type in Barcelona, Spain, I'm going to have this create us a food guide. Recommend, got to spell recommend right. No, that's still not, I recommend, recommend restaurants near La Rambla, and let's let AI give us a food guide for Barcelona. We're going to then integrate that into our proposal. It is a great value add tool. Some people are asking, do you have to use it? No, but it makes it really easy, and it adds on like that level of expertise that says, you know, I, as your advisor, here's some great reasons that you're using me. Here's some great things to do in Barcelona. For those people who really like food, myself included, this is some great destination guide ideas. You can also ask it for photo guides, history guides, all of these cool things. So if I click this and add, we're creating a destination guide. This one did not come out the best, I'm going to be honest.
I was going to say, you got to get more context. So I was
Yeah.
going to say really quickly. So one of the things to include, for example, here is saying like, I need a destination guide for a family. They're all gluten-free and they need some options in this neighborhood. Or it's just, I need a destination guide of restaurants for a family that really loves X, Y, and Z type food or this type of experience. So typically you want to give more context than that, but that's another example. You can also, if you go back to the full itinerary page, oh, there you go. There you go. This one worked.
Yes, we've pulled in a better one. This is our basic template for destination guides. It always works. Maybe we can actually do a whole class on prompting the AI because I didn't do the best job there. But we're gonna rock with this. Barcelona, a Mediterranean dream. Experiences, activities, food and drink are in here. Shopping, activities. Just wanted to show you that as my kind of recovery from my brief trip there. But Grace, carry on with what you were saying.
Yeah, the same thing you could do there. So you saw the destination guide, but you can also do packing lists as well. So if you're trying to recommend packing lists, we're going to keep working on this to make sure that we're adding alternative, things in the future beyond just destination guide and packing list. But we felt like those are two really good use cases and instances. But also the AI assist tool up top that you see on the right there, that's kind of that big empty box, is an opportunity for you also to use to upload, let's say, a PDF from a booking with a supplier or a proposal that a company sends you. You can upload multiple, documents as a way, or just the descriptions or a link or whatever, as a way for you to pull in and parse out information. So when Evan was showing you how he created a hotel and, et cetera, and did all that stuff, you can also take a step back, and before you even get into the hotel booking, where you want to pull in AI content or a tour, you can even just pull in a whole PDF and it'll do this for you as well. So hopefully that's useful for you guys, as like an additional add there.
Yeah, super exciting. Grace, I'll double down on that. AI Assist is amazing. We can make sure to include some resources about all of the features and all the things you can do with it. So before we go ahead and send this to the client, because I think we've made a pretty decent miniature trip here, I'm just going to scroll down and point out other trip components we could be adding. We could be doing our transportation, whether that's rail, whether that's private transfers, whether that's self-booked travel. We can put that on the itinerary. We can also add anything we want through an info block. So we can add on like dinner reservations that we're not charging them for, but we've made them a reservation, for example. We can put photos in those info blocks to really beef up this proposal, especially for those FITs, those ones where you're really trying to set yourself apart. Just wanted to point that out before we actually went on and sent this to the client. So with that in mind, we're about to kind of change hats here and pretend to be the client. But I got to show you the last thing that we're doing as the advisor. We're clicking this big blue publish button up here. And by clicking that, we actually can have our integrated email, which is going to be your email address. So it's not sending from Tern. It's actually sending from you. It's going to send out the itinerary link, and you can even apply a template. So you can click on here. You can see whatever your templates are, and you can apply them to have it write out. Here's your itinerary. I've had a blast making this for you. Hope you are super excited to go to Barcelona, and feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. That type of client experience, we're really enabling you to do that quickly and easily. So if you pretend that I've clicked send here, I'm going to switch my tabs and open.
I think we might have lost Evan. Am I the only one? I think we lost Evan, guys. I'm so sorry. Okay, Evan, you're back.
That was embarrassing. I don't know how I lost internet right at like the grand reveal, but I digress. So I really changed client hats. Like I had to switch internet too. So bear with me, but we're back. So this is going to show that picture we chose at the very beginning. It's going to have our overview. I made it really short, remember, but you would want to put a little more time into this, saying, what it is, like kind of setting the mood. That destination guide we made has now integrated into the proposal. Our flights are here. You can see the tracker and you can see the cost and all of that. And then we have our stay where they can select the rooms and the 2 options for their tour. So this right here is all packaged down into the daily overview. Again, it's a week-long trip, but we only built out a little part of it very quickly. And then under pricing, they're able to see what the options are starting at 4,000 because there's the other option for that fabulous suite and these 2 tours that are similarly priced. So up here, I have a big orange button. Some people don't like the color orange. You don't have to have it be orange. It's custom colors. Mine are based off the college I went to. But most people, most travelers are going to click the big orange button. I call it the action button. And this is how smooth the client experience is. So they click this.
Flag too before just jumping as you're about to click show everyone. Well, you can click it too. It's up to you. But the important thing to know is like this is the link that your client is getting. So the important thing to note here is that we're not just sending them an itinerary. We're sending them and giving you an actual booking flow. Obviously, you're the one booking it, but like showing you a booking flow so that you can actually get your customer to your client to actually like activate and convert with you. Before, if you're just using a different tool, you're not actually having someone like make the choice, commit to a certain thing, doing credit card authorization. Like that is a very different experience. Whereas Tern really thinks about the full flow so that you're actually getting to that booking and converting. So I know someone asked in the chat if this is done via email or app. All of the above, desktop, doesn't matter. You can have them do this on any different format. So sorry, Evan, I just want to make sure everyone knows that like the way we think about this stuff is so that the entire flow and the entire process of you running your business is all connected. So this doesn't create you like a separate step that you have to do. This is already there for you, for them to like activate and commit.
Yes, Grace, we make a great team because you really hit on the important stuff. Jessica, the starting app price at the top has a range because yes, it's considering if they're choosing the top rate with the room. So let me show how this goes now for the client. So if they click select preferences, they get to go in here and they can select their options of which activity. So they want to do the food tour on bicycles, or do they want to do the guided tour of Sagrada Familia? We're going to go ahead and choose the guided tour. And now from here, we can also select the room. So if we click view details, we can see back to our guy. This is a little bit of demo lore. We have our person on that pillow. So we're not going to select that room. We're not going to select that one. We're going to select the 2 doubles. So by submitting this, this is Tern magic right here. We have eliminated the back and forth. So you don't have to go on. Maybe I wanted that room.
Evan, I think we're losing.
So that way.
Sorry, say that again.
We built that flow so that way your client can go in self-service and you don't have to go back and forth with them. You can save a ton of time. You don't have to worry about lost emails, missed phone calls. They are able to go in here. They've made this selection of the room. They've made the selection of the tour, and the price they're about to authorize on their credit card is reflected in it. So things to point out about this page. This is our authorization page. It's not editable. We worked with teams and lawyers to make sure that this is one of the best tools at preventing chargebacks. So we have all sorts of language on here saying that they're sharing their credit card details with you. They are authorizing these specific items. They're putting in their credit card, just like Amazon, if you've ever heard of that website. And they're accepting your terms and conditions. So this right here links out to your business's terms and conditions, your agency, your business. And then they're e-signing.
Settings. I know I saw a question somewhere about where, like, how do you have the TA terms and conditions? I think it was Cindy. This is where that shows up for the client so they can view and accept them. This is how we're preventing the chargebacks, but you would have set this up in your settings separately before this stage, obviously.
Yes, and Grace, as far as settings, we have a great Turn and Learn chapter 1 about doing those settings. And I'm sure we have some recorded webinars as well about those more minute details. So since you've seen this today, everyone on this call, if you're not already set up in Tern and you're motivated to get set up, we're going to make sure you have the best resource to do it. And then once you're set up, you can pretty much go straight into booking these or planning these trips for your client. So the client's last step, they're going to hit submit authorization. They're going to get this submitted successfully button, and they can see this has been authorized. Now their card's not charged because you're going to go ahead and do that. So let me switch my screen one last time. I'm going to put on my advisor hat. So bear with me as I've done it. I think I have. If I go over to this authorization tab, I will have gotten an email And then in this authorization tab, all of these have switched to authorized. So this is part of that magic in Tern, because if you click on it and open it, we have now pulled in the card details. Everyone screenshot. No, I'm just kidding. It's a fake card. So feel free to screenshot it, but it can't get you much. So their credit card details are here, and you have 30 days to make the charges to this card. Once you've made those charges, this is how simple the process is. You click mark as paid, you click mark as booked, you can click it up here, or you can click it down here where it was earlier. You double check that your commission is correct, and then you put in that confirmation number and the supplier it was booked through. So this was our flight. So this was American Airlines. I got to spell airlines right. There we go. American Airlines. And you can even attach a receipt for the traveler. So that's your process. You would then do that for the other items on the authorization. I do want to point out, this is part of the cool stuff, is that it's showing how much they've authorized, and it's showing for the rooms which room they've chosen. So they chose the 2 doubles. Under booking and pricing, it's showing they've only authorized 4,000. So unfortunately, you cannot bill them for that room with the person on the pillow, like the custom robes, but pillows. And really, that's your process. So there's a couple other things in Tern that you can do. You can now send out insurance quotes. So if once you know the final cost, I used to work in insurance for anyone who doesn't know that. If you don't know the final cost, maybe you're not able to send out the quote. You can do that afterwards and then send out an email through Tern that says, hey, I've put an insurance quote. We have a built-in waiver. So people who ask about waivers and want to add that into their business for insurance sales, it's built into Tern. So super effective feature to be able to do that. And overall, all of this goes to say, we have today created a client. We have built this trip very quickly, very effectively, utilizing our options, utilizing AI in a few different cases. And then we have sent that to the client and seen how smooth their experience is, whether that experience is mobile web, the mobile app, desktop, laptop, iPad, any of the places they're able to access the internet, they can work on accepting that trip in Tern. So a couple highlights as far as like questions and things we talked about or maybe didn't hit on today. Workflows and automations can be turned on for contacts or for trips. Grace just linked a workflow workshop from our Tern community for you all to check out. That is a great place to dive in after this as part of building your process. On top of that, insurance, we have the tab. There's insurance information in the Tern and Learn. I do want to click on this while we're here. We have tasks managed out per trip. And then if you guys want to see how bad of a travel advisor I am, we have an overall daily task board. So I have a lot of stuff
you're not a
overdue from
travel advisor.
April.
Let's just
I don't know if anyone's booking with me officially, but here's just an idea of, if you're going into Tern every day and you're having tasks auto-made for you, or you're making them manually, you can make sure that you're caught up to date every day with stuff that needs to be done. Super great feature over here. With that in mind, that's kind of like the end of my presentation. We definitely have time for a couple of questions. Chloe, yes, I'm excited for your class. Thank you for the compliment, and thank you for that. So read the chat. This leads into Chloe's class, which part of it, she's going to do an amazing justice and do an amazing job. But part of it will maybe be that transition from, okay, you can plan a trip. How do you now automate this and work on your process really to maximize the return on your time? So happy to see any questions. Grace, what do you think at this point too?
Yeah, this is great. So you guys, when you're filling out that form of what you're interested in learning in, a lot of people said workflows. We shared that in the chat of like the one that's Chloe's doing. Evan, do you mind pulling up the settings so you could show how you add your logo to a proposal just so that someone could answer the question answered? While you do that, I'm going to answer. I know you guys were also looking for help with getting things set up prior to even doing your first trip. So like setting up the automations, tasks, profile, terms and conditions. I'm going to set up a training for that as well for you guys. So keep an eye out for the email I send right after this. I'm also going to send out a discount code. In case you're on the lookout for creating an account with us. Sorry, guys, I had to sneeze there. And then, all right, yeah, Evan, do you want to show them that while I make sure that we cover everything?
Yes. So up here, I'm looking at business settings, and that's where we're uploading our logo and our cover photo. choosing our business's brand colors. And what I put in the chat for anyone who's not reading that is when it comes to like those day one setup tasks, we're going to make sure that we link out the Turn and Learn with resources for that, because this is like this is also day one stuff, making your first trip. This is really how you're going to get the use out of Tern. But for anyone who's confused or needs more help on getting their Tern set up, we're going to make sure we follow up with resources for that. That way you have all of it together. You're going to have Tern 101 and Tern 102, Tern 103 coming up with Chloe this weekend, and you all will be great moving forward.
Great. Any last minute, like specific questions where you're like, I really wanted to see this one specific thing that we can answer? The company logo was a good example, but anything specific that like we can answer for you guys while we've got you? Any last questions for anyone?
I am just laughing at Chloe's comment that I read just again, scrolling up about how I want the room with the funny pillow. It just made me laugh.
Can you show where the terms and conditions goes for each person? Do you mean, Chloe, where the terms and condition goes, like on an
Oh,
itinerary?
in the settings, right? I think.
Yeah, or in the settings.
Gotcha.
Waivers and
Yep.
agreements.
So under here in waivers and agreements is where you're going to upload your terms and conditions. So if you're getting terms and conditions from your agency, so say you're an advisor, part of a larger agency, it may be those terms and conditions, or if you've worked with a lawyer or have the resource that you've written out your own terms and conditions that you are using for your business, this is where you're going to upload those. So what this does is this is what's linking on that authorization page automatically for you. You don't have to set that up. It's just automatically going to pull in from here. And then Jamie's asking why you would need to enter different supplier info on the activity versus the booking tab. I can answer that super high level for you. If you're working with, say, like an aggregator in that case, and Andrew's putting it in there too, but it's going either through an aggregator or like Andrew's example, Universal Studios is the package, their supplier, but you're getting a confirmation number and you're physically staying at the Lowe's hotel, you would want to separate those. So one's for kind of like your commission tracking purposes, and one is for the advisor and what they're, or sorry, the traveler and what they're seeing. I also like to use the other example of if you're working with like a Beds Online or a wholesaler, you're able to discern between where the traveler's staying, because the traveler's not staying at Beds Online, and where your commission's coming from. Jamie, you're very welcome. That is a power question, and I'm glad I got to answer that for you.
All right, guys, well, make sure you sign up for Chloe's workshop session. We're also going to be releasing a lot more trainings that get a lot more granular. This is very much like a larger overview demo, but we're going to be doing a lot more specific trainings rather than demo coming up soon. So keep an eye out. I'm going to send an email to all of you with some more resources from this, following up on some of your questions. I'm also going to be sending out, like I said, that discount code. Thanks, Jessica. And we'll talk to you all soon, but thank you so much for joining us. If you have additional questions, feel free to reach out to the support team, and we'll talk to you all soon.